In addition to those dynamics, you can also render environmental dynamics such as flooding. This is work from Galen students that won ASLA awards. And you can see that they showed what the site looks like when it's during dry season, what it looks like when there's a 100-year flood, what it looks like in the future when 100-year flood is combined with a 6 feet sea level rise. You can also do a section perspective. So again, this is the Olin National Mall project. So you pretty much position the site to have a horizontal cut line. So this cut line here that shows the elevation change or topography of your design. And then you show everything else as a perspective drawing behind it. This works really well, especially when you have a street, a canal, or like this, when you have a terracing topography. So then you place the street, canal, or the contours of the terraces into the drawing like this, so that your cut line actually shows the elevation change here. Okay, so far most of the drawings we've talked about are rendered to the full extent of your canvas, but you can also adopt a collage style. For example, like this, where you do not fully render to the full extent of your canvas. In reality, is there something here or here? Yes, of course. But then because it's not as important to your design, you don't have to show it. So next I'll just show some examples. See like how this is not caught in a flat line here, straight line. This one as well, you can see the sky. There's a certain image cut out that they use as the background building, and then some other cut out for the skies, and they intentionally make it visible there as a collage. So some of the important techniques that are used for creating collages, the most common one is half bleed. So meaning that the different features that you use do not all bleed to the full extent of your canvas. See like here, in both of those drawings, the trees are rendered at the full extent of this image. This tree here is rendered at the full extent, but the lawn here isn't. It's cut here, and then the sky is also cut here. A second technique that you can use is feature highlighting, where you use very vibrant colors to highlight a certain thing and use more of a gray color to represent everything else. So here the landscape slopes on the roof are very strong, it stands out because of the color scheme that's used. For this one here, also they are highlighting the ground surface. I would not recommend this kind of style for your perspective rendering because this is more of a conceptual drawing style. And then a third technique is to use shape imposing. So you can impose a shape here to make a certain feature the focal point. This works really well when you have features that extend into the depths of your drawing, like this. In other words, when you have a one-point perspective. So imposing a circle here highlights the directional factor, highlight movement that goes into the depths, the vanishing point that you have. This is as if you're pointing a camera lens at it, and this is what you capture using the lens. But also by including some features on the edge, it breaks the rigid pattern and it adds a little bit of complexity to that rendering. This is a similar example, one-point perspective. So just a caveat. One time I talked about shape imposing, and my students all got very creative and they use all kinds of shapes. Just be careful, okay? A circle can blend in really well with any shape, pretty much any shape, any form. But if you have a triangle or hexagon or some creative shape, it may not actually work well with your design. Or when people see it, they feel like you have a specific message to convey. So just be careful about it. The fourth technique that we'll talk about is monochromatic. This is an example of a conceptual drawing, but in realistic rendering, you can also have a collage style with just one color shown, and that'll actually highlight some things that you would like to call out. Alright, next we will talk about some post-processing styles. I call those surreal styles that can actually add a unique touch to your rendering. A lot of these examples are from architecture, but they apply just as nicely to landscape architecture. So if you don't know, MIR is a innovative kind of rendering studio that's based in Norway, and they've done a lot of work for famous designer architects like Zaha Hadid or Big Group and some other famous firms. So they kind of set the trend of contemporary architectural rendering, and it's slowly also influencing landscape rendering as well. So you can see from these examples, they are really good at creating a mysterious feeling using fog, cloud, and rain. So the basic idea here is not to show everything completely, right? Like having fog or some kind of environmental conditions that hide a little bit of your rendering, and by doing so entice you to know more about it. So and you can see that the atmosphere is also a little darker, which adds a little to the mysterious feeling of it. This is also another example of their design, their rendering. You can see that this person here in the foreground, it adds a storyline, and you can feel a certain type of mood there, and you begin to ask the question, what is his relationship to the building, right? What is he looking at? What is he thinking, right? So a lot of contemporary architectural rendering actually do not place the building that they're trying to convey, to represent, close up. They place it in the middle ground and add a little something in the foreground, close up. That's mostly about the mood. Another style, architects call it the Katherine Hegel style. I don't know what Katherine Hegel means or who she is, but this style is usually using a overlighting warm tone. You can see that the rendering feels romantic, right? They use high saturation of colors, bright colors, overlighting, a lot of background characteristics, background details. This is kind of like a romantic and idealistic kind of scene. You can see that all of the trees or even buildings here, you can see light penetrating from the branches, the edge of the trees, which create an airy kind of romantic feeling. And people are also overlighted. This is a style which architects call the whodunit. So you can see it uses a high contrast, a cold kind of color, blue, green kind of tone. Very low saturation, cold color tone, very high contrast. And this works really well if you have a strong design, modern kind of design feature, angular shape or modern geometry. In the environment, you would see like stormy sky, foggy sky, you see shadowy figures. The rendering gives a sense of serenity, even a little bit scary, like the setting for a horror movie or a crime scene. And it is just that dramatic kind of effect that is desired in this kind of rendering. And then in a lot of landscape architecture renderings, you see low saturation. So that's a very common technique used. Not only the environment, the buildings, the pavement, but also people are low saturated. This is another example of low saturation. The last one I want to talk about is overlighting with motion blur. So these are examples from SWA competition work. This works really well, especially when showing actions, motions, like people walking, running, biking. You will see that, for example, these two people biking here are like motion blurred. This is easily done in Photoshop, but I would caution you that do not use this technique too much. If every person on your rendering is blurry, it won't look as attractive as this is. So go ahead and check those out. I would like to say that perspective rendering is an art, and we will encourage you to be creative and expressive. Establish your own style in doing the renderings. Overall, a lot of the images that we include in the discussions are from the web pages, like publicly accessible images from, competitions, offices and stuff. And if there are copyright related questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. These are used only for educational purposes, and we have included the sources on every page just next to the images. Alright, that's all for this video. I hope you've enjoyed looking at those examples and feel inspired to work on your own renderings. Thank you very much. Have a great day.